for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah. That's right. And it is Tuesday, October 30th, 2018. 306 days into the new year, just 59 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California, and I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? Tonight is night number 2 of our Halloween week here. And tonight we have with us Maureen Wood. And she's going to be sharing her favorite ghost stories from her 2 books, co-authored with Ron Kolok, The Ghost Chronicles, and more Ghost Chronicles. There it is right there, holding it up to the camera. Tomorrow night, Sha, the Loon Witch, back for the 5th annual Loon Witch Evening right here. Halloween night special event. Taking your phone calls all night long. 3-card, pop, pop, pop. Tarot readings all night long. I cannot wait for tomorrow night. It's going to be amazing. Thursday night, Adrian Valera is back with us to tell us about the Washington, D.C. Disclosure Fest Mass Meditation. And there you go. So that's going to be all night. We have 6 amazing guests that will be lined up. I'll announce all of that and the timing of it and how we're going to pull that off tomorrow night on the show. All right? There you go. On Stellar went down yesterday. It's back. Server issues, and it gets a little bit complicated, but it wasn't hacked, and it wasn't this, and it wasn't Google, and no, it was a server issue, but on Stellar it's back, and it's all good. OnStellar.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. What is it with the tacos? Oh, Taco Tuesday. I get it. You guys are funny. Well, I guess that answers that question, what we're going to do after the show tonight, because I guess it is Taco Tuesday. Tuesday at JChurch Radio. You can follow us right there if you want to see the Taco Tuesday. That's pretty good, actually. The Taco Tuesday gifts. You can go check it out at JChurch Radio. Yeah, you guys are quick. I just grabbed one of my little Eddie Van Halen guitars, and that one's from Van Halen 1. It's called the Eruption guitar. There it is. And, pretty cool. There it is, the black and white one with the black pick guard. And I just held it up to the camera just for a second, and you guys grabbed it that fast. I don't know how you guys do that. That's pretty cool. Right on, Frankie. And so that's what I know. You think that is me playing the guitar, but if you look really close, never mind. Never mind. At JChurch Radio on Twitter, hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Come and hang out. We will be doing like we do every single night right here. 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 tweets will be going down in Twitter. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Any questions or comments during the show tonight or any other night? Hashtag F2BQ. That means fade to black questions. This connection is untrusted. Yeah, I know, right? Just a bunch of baloney there. All right, so there you go. You can also email throughout the show, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Bet you couldn't figure that out. Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Breaking news. Boston gangster James Whitey Bulger was killed this morning at the U.S. Penitentiary Hazleton in Brewston Mills, West Virginia, a day after transfer from Oklahoma. 3 people briefed on the situation said that a fellow inmate with mafia ties, one Photios Freddie Geese, was being investigated for the slang. You think that there's some Italian stuff there. Photios Freddie Geese. The U.S. Bureau of Prisons said that Bulger arrived at USP Hazleton on Monday and was found dead at 8:20 a.m. Tuesday. There you go. Yep, Whitey Bulger. And I don't remember. I'm going to defer this over to Twitter really quick. What was the movie with Johnny Depp? Right, there was the one with Johnny Depp where he played Whitey. And then there was, what was the one with DiCaprio? The Departed? Was that what that was called? Man, I can't even remember. Both were actually really, really good movies. And unless you knew, who Whitey was, or if you were from Boston or Southie or whatever, you probably, it's one of those things that came and went. But then they captured him. He was 16 years on the run and just popped up here in Southern California in Santa Monica. Been living in this apartment in Santa Monica. They go in, and I don't even know if this was reported nationally, but it was certainly covered here in Los Angeles. They go in, they tear his apartment apart, and in the walls, they found machine guns and cash, millions of dollars. And dude was just walking around the streets of Santa Monica like it was all good. 16 years. Yeah, The Departed. That's what it was called. Thank you for that. Beavis and Butthead. Black something. Come on, you guys can do better than that. What was the Johnny Depp movie called? I can't remember. All right, it was pretty good, though. All right, don't forget, you can subscribe to our podcast. It is just $2 per month. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on that podcast banner, go and get yourself all set up. You can get any platform that you want as far as apps go. Go to Google, go to Apple, go to those app stores and download it, and it's all good. It's right there. $2 per month. We have over 900 archive shows right there. And you can also become a Fade or Not over at our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. That's right. You can get commercial-free downloadable archives. You can get private email to me. You get the bunker cam. You can get autographed shirts and hats. And the hats are only available if you become a game changer. That's it. And they're cool. They're embroidered, really nice hats. So there you go. And signed right there. Just go to the membership section at jimmychurchradio.com and visit all of our sponsors here, like River Moon Coffee. There you go. River Moon Coffee. Hashtag promo code F2B Blend. Get you 15% off of that order. And, of course, Ancient Life Oil and Life Change Tea, new Manna Food Storage. Everything is right there at jimmychurchradio.com. We've got a really cool thing coming, and the photographs have been made. I've got mine. Rita's gotten hers. I don't know if we're going to do this as early as Monday. Rita, can I say something about this? You know, those things that go around the wrists. Can I say something? Black Mass? That's what it was called, Black Mass. Thank you for that, Frank. Wasn't the Depp movie called Powder? Sandra, that's funny. That's really funny. Rita, can I mention those? Because they're really, really nice. I should almost hold them up to the cameras. But anyway, look for that on Monday. Maybe tomorrow night. Oh, we got Thursday too. But it's up to Rita. She's the boss. All right, let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Bush. Remember Bush? Bush frontman Gavin Rossdale today is 52 years old. And the Fonz, Henry Winkler, is 73 years old. Powder starred Sean Patrick Flannery. Is that right? How old was he in Powder? No. Is that right? Okay. Henry Winkler, the Fonz today, is 73 years old. On this day in history, 1938, it went down. Orson Welles causes a nationwide panic with the broadcast of War of the Worlds. That's right, that realistic radio dramatization of a Martian invasion of Earth. There was a line in that I'll never forget. I just forgot it, actually. And now we go to the whatever hotel in Manhattan where and it was some Spanish guy's name. I forget what it was. The Ron Padilla Orchestra or something. It was just like, and that creepy music kicked in. That was just unbelievably cool. And it was realistic enough, wasn't it? Freaked everybody out. Fader fact. After leaving office, this has been vetted, by the way. All right? Fader fact. After leaving office, Ronald Reagan was offered the role of Hill Valley's mayor in Back to the Future Part 3. Bet you didn't know that. Now you do. That's right. You're a Hollywood pillar of knowledge right now with that Fader fact. Tonight is night number 2 of our Halloween week right here on Fade to Black. Tonight, Maureen Wood is going to be here. She co-authored a book, 4 books with Ron Kolok. The latest is called More Ghost Chronicles. Book 1 is called The Ghost Chronicles. And tonight she's going to tell us her favorite ghost stories from both books. All right, so that's what we're going to do tonight. Tomorrow night, Sha, the Loon Witch, is going to be here. We're going to do 1, 2, 3 card tarot readings for you all night long. We'll bust through about 100 phone calls tomorrow night. So line up, get ready early, and we'll get right through it, and it'll be an amazing Halloween night. And thank you for sharing and spending your Halloween night with us tomorrow night. I really look forward to this. Thursday night, Adrian Valera is going to be here. And we're going to have a full lineup of guests all night long because we're going to be talking about the Washington, D.C. Disclosure Fest mass meditation, the cleansing of Washington, D.C. This is going to be going down on 11/11 at the Lincoln Memorial, right? The steps of the Lincoln Memorial. So that will be Thursday night. All right, man. Sometimes I just got to talk, and right now you got to listen. I'm going to hit this. River Moon Coffee. And let's talk. Need to talk, because last night I mentioned that Tom DeLonge and Luis Elizondo of To the Stars Academy Arts and Sciences, or whatever they call that thing, TTSA, were in Italy to give a presentation. Now, the Italian UFO group, CUN, hosted it in Rome a couple of days ago on October 27th, 2018. And Elizondo discussed some UFO history, including the famous 1952 Washington, D.C. event. And this is what Elizondo said. And I am quoting here. He said, In the early 1950s, the United States had another very significant event over our nation's capital. Once again, these objects were identified both with the naked eye and again on radar. And unlike Roswell, many people had cameras and were able to take photographs. And what you see here are real photographs along with the story, the headline story that came out. Now, behind him, as he's doing this, he's giving this presentation, he's doing this PowerPoint, and there it is, and the slide pops up. And on the slide, there were a couple of pictures. And Elizondo's pictures in this presentation came from the internet. The slide that he had running behind him was composed of two images. The first one is a frame from a CGI animated version of a picture of a lens flare from UFO's The Secret Evidence. So it wasn't a picture of the Capitol in 1952. And the second image in the slide, a black and white version of an image from the 1954 comic book Weird Science Fantasy number 26. That was found in the files of Project Blue Book. Now, I have seen the video from the conference, and I've just got to say this. It made me more than a little uncomfortable, which for me is usually a good thing. But in this case, it was the bad version of uncomfortable. Let me explain the good version, just so you understand where I'm coming from. In less than one lifetime ago, just one, in 1929, Edwin Hubble discovered the real universe. And up until that time, there were no, get ready for it, galaxies. In 1929, listen to me, old Edwin wasn't comfortable. He was uncomfortable. He was uncomfortable with the explanations of the stars, of space, and in very short order, he changed everything. Because in 1929, science said that there was only one galaxy. And today, that number is around 400 billion. And those are just the ones we think we can see. Now look, it's very, very simple. When you are comfortable, nothing gets done. Questions are not asked. Change is not made. In fact, you just stagnate because you're comfortable. You don't step outside the bounds. You don't wonder. You don't do anything. You do other things because you're comfortable. Do you really want me to make you uncomfortable? You want me to make you think, right? Make you ask some questions? Well, chew on this. I'll get back to DeLong and Elizondo in a second. I'll tie it all together. I always do. But chew on this. Dark energy is increasing the speed of expansion of our universe. Dark energy was discovered because people, scientists, were uncomfortable and trying to figure out what is going on. The farther out you go to the edges of our universe, the faster things are moving. Now, something that is 1 times the distance from us, it's moving 2 times out the distance from us, it's actually moving at 2 times speed. 3 times you go. The further out you go, it multiplies. Things are ripping fast in expansion the further out you go. And these distances are so great that now, at the horizon of everything, those objects, stars, planets, galaxies, are approaching the speed of light. We can still see them, theoretically, but soon they'll reach the speed of light and beyond. That's right. And when they do, they'll disappear. Think about that. They'll be moving faster than the light that they create. Just think about that for a second. Seriously. They're there, but they are not. It's like poof. Outrunning the light that they create. Now, this takes us into a real uncomfortable zone. And that's okay. Because I like it. That's a good place to be. We need to be uncomfortable with a thought like that. You don't want to be comfortable. You don't want to let that go. Right? You want to figure that out. Why? What's going on? And at the edge of the universe, you always wondered what is out there. The edge of the universe is being created by things that disappear. That's right. Once they cross that line, they're gone. They're not in the blackness of space. They are outrunning their own light. The bad place is when you have someone like Elizondo, the bad uncomfortable like I have had with him, is when you have someone like Elizondo getting up in front of a UFO audience and is supposed to be some kind of authority on the subject and discussing history. History as fact. And gets that history, wrong. And not just wrong, but ufology 101 wrong. Everyone, and I mean everyone studying the UFO subject knows that there are no pictures of the 1952 Washington, D.C. UFO incident. Everybody knows that. Everybody. Except, apparently, Louis Elizondo. And that, my friends, makes me very uncomfortable. The bad version. Now, I'm going to read his statement again, and I want you to understand. Remember this. As he said these words, he had his PowerPoint slide up with the images behind him for the audience. And I'm quoting, this is what he said. In the early 1950s, the United States had another very significant event over our nation's capital. Once again, these objects were identified both with the naked eye and again on radar. And unlike Roswell, many people had cameras and were unable to take photographs. I said unable, I'm sorry. Many people had cameras and were able to take photographs. I have something in my throat. And what you see here are real photographs along with the story. The headline story that came out. Had this happened at a conference in the States, I can only imagine what would have occurred. And I'm serious here. I'm talking about flying tomatoes, right, come to mind. It would have been ugly. I can officially say that I can't take Lewis serious anymore. I tried. I really did. I had said over and over again, my fingers are crossed when it comes to TTSA. And that was after the Mylar balloon. That was after everything else. Just craziness that had happened. All of it, right? But for me, it's community first. And you just cannot present false, inaccurate, and completely made up information to the public. The excitement behind December 16th, 2017, the day of disclosure, it was awesome. And we were all uncomfortable. The good version. And because we didn't just sit still and lay down, the community was able to focus on what was really happening. And since then, things have just unraveled for TTSA. Now, the Italian incident may very well be the end of days for TTSA. And I know this. Luis Elizondo really needs to take a few years off to study. He does. He's got to back up. He's got a lot to learn. You just can't come into this community with his background and try to teach us our history and get it wrong. It's a bad, bad move. Trust me when I say this. When you show up at a UFO conference, probably 95% of everybody that you see around you knows more than you. It's the way that it is. 3 years from now, Lewis can come back. He can come back. Go study, woodshed, and then come back and take the ufology 101 test. And we'll see if he passes. Right now, it's just one big epic fail. And I'm very comfortable in saying that. Seriously. I just can't go for it. I can't. I've said it before. I'll say it again. My fingers were crossed. I was hoping that things would turn around and things would get right and so forth. Now I'm forced to go back and look at what happened with the infamous Mylar balloon incident at their presser live, which they dismissed as an honest mistake. And then this. The difference is simple. And listen to me, I'm going to be very clear. You want to dismiss one as a mistake? Fine. This, he said clearly, these are photographs from the Washington, D.C. incident over the Capitol in 1952. Unlike Roswell, people had pictures, and here they are. You can't do that. Here, I can only imagine if that was done here in the States. At a UPARS meeting here in Los Angeles, where there are some ufologists there, they would just stand up and start yelling. Dude, there's no pictures of that. What are you talking about? Get out of here. It would have gotten ugly, and I'm not kidding about that. You just can't do that. You can't go to the MUFON Symposium and present something like that with some real historians sitting in the audience that know the facts. Can't do it. This is bad, and I am not comfortable. Think about that. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. And I'm not picking. I'm just saying this community comes first. That's it. This community comes first. You cannot continue to do this. You just can't. But now we're going to have some fun. It's night 2 of our Halloween week, and Maureen Wood is here. She's going to tell us her favorite ghost stories. That's right. Her book just released with co-author Ron Kolok, More Ghost Chronicles. I'll be right back. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. On the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. This is Fade to Black. Stay with me. Be right back.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Times are changing. The circus of politics, healthcare's low standards and high prices, and let's not forget food quality. What to do? Arm yourself with Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. In a world of chemical imbalance and poor air and water quality, it's time you make a move. Log on to getthetea.com and stock up on organic non-GMO supplements. Don't forget the tea. Cleansing your body never felt so good. And we have a brand new tea called Takedown Tea, which helps support healthy glucose. All natural body support so you can be at your best, naturally. All you have to do is log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. We're not a fad that comes and goes. We are the real deal. Join us and armor up. Getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Changing America's health one tea bag at a time.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find Fast Start Diet on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code TALK to get 10% off your first box. And as a special bonus, Fast Start will include their #1 rated Lipo-3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. This is Jimmy Church. And whatever your diet plans are, do what I did. Go to faststartdiet.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Night 2 of our Halloween week right here on Fade to Black. Tonight, Maureen Wood is here. Tomorrow night, Sha the Loon Witch. We're going to do 100 phone calls, 100 tarot readings tomorrow night on Fade to Black. This is our 5th annual Halloween special with Sha the Loon Witch. But tonight, it's Maureen Wood. And Maureen is a 5th-generation psychic trance-medium. For as far back as she can remember, she has communicated with the dead. And at the age of 15, she was introduced to a woman who studied with Laurie Cabot, the official Witch of Salem, Massachusetts. Maureen is currently the lead psychic medium for the New England Ghost Project and the former co-host of the popular Ghost Chronicles radio show. There you go. Maureen also starred in the Emmy-winning American Builder Halloween special. Maureen has also written 3 books with Ron Kolok, more Ghost Chronicles, stories from the realm of the unknown, the unexplained, and the unbelievable. The Ghost Chronicles, a medium and paranormal scientist, investigates 17 true hauntings, and Ghost a Day, 365 true tales of the spectral, supernatural, and just plain scary. Tonight is our night number 2 of Halloween week, and Maureen is here to share
her favorite, scariest ghost stories. There you go. Maureen, good evening. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Oh, I love the accent already. Maureen, this is the deal. You get the first-time guest disclaimer. So we got to do that first before we can continue. But you're a psychic, so you already knew this was coming, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, which is, Maureen, it's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation. Wherever the conversation starts, it starts. Wherever it ends. But we're going to end as friends. There you go.
Sounds good.
All right. Now, the easy question is this. I want to start here. You're a psychic medium, right? So you're making these connections, and you've been doing it for nearly your whole life, as far as back as you can remember. What was the first time that you figured out that you had some kind of talent like this?
Well, good question, because, when you're very young and you're seeing spirits and they're sitting on your bed and you're seeing them all the time, you don't think that there's anything unusual. You think everybody is seeing them. And to be honest, I think that to some extent, a lot of people can when they're young and they're children. You see, imaginary friends, and, this one says, oh, are you seeing someone? And what you want to do is ask them if, can you point out a picture? If you see a child saying they're seeing an imaginary friend. So, for me, it was pretty normal until I realized when I was about, 12 or 13, and I would be talking to friends, and they just sat there staring at me like that, it was not normal. And I ended up spending my time for a lot of it. I live across from the cemetery growing up, and live in a home that's about 1896 when it was built. And so let's just say my house was very active. So for me, it was just, every day.
The first time that it happens, do you, and especially when you're young, do you have the ability to question things and maybe think that you're nuts, right? That maybe you're a little crazy and this is imagination. Are you able to, apply some discernment, or was it just too real and you knew that something was going on?
Yeah, I think it was, for that time, it was too real. And I recall coming down, we had a bedroom upstairs, and I would come downstairs and, tell my mother every morning. And, my father would sit there and look at me and think, oh my God, what is wrong with her? And now my mother, she hadn't told me anything other than you're normal, it's okay, and here's some holy water. And if I found out many years later that, she would tell me she had abilities herself, but she'd turn up the radio. She didn't want to hear the spirits. And, her mother died when she was very young, and she was raised by her grandmother. But back through the family generations, they would heal the, people in the town. They would heal them. They would stop them from bleeding. They would, people would come to them for readings constantly. So my mother was well versed in understanding what was going on. But my poor father, well, he wasn't.
And did you start to, it's one thing to hear things. Did you see things too as well?
Yes, I did. And as I got older, I want to say that there was a time when I was in my teens, around 13, 14 years old, when it really, the house got extremely active, especially when, I was by myself in the house. And I would see things where, a plate would come out of the cabinet and would break, let's say, on the countertop, and it would just be bouncing up and down it felt like forever. Like it seemed time just slowed down, and I put my hand there and it would be pieces popping off the countertop on top of my hand, and gas jets would turn on and the bed would vibrate and slide across the room. I actually had a time where we used to have those insulated curtains behind the bed to keep, the cold from coming through the windows. And the bed would vibrate away from the wall, and the curtains came out around it and were literally strangling me.
No. There you go.
Yes.
Now,
yeah.
Maureen, is this you causing it? In other words, if you were not there, would this still have happened?
Yeah, I can't say that for sure. I know that I would tell my sisters and let them know what was going on, and they too would look at me like, what is she on? And I was very young, and I don't believe I was causing it. I might have, because it became very active. It was to me, it's like turning on a light. And if a spirit is trying to communicate, I would just start getting a rampage of a lot of spirits that was showing up.
Did you tell your parents, I was almost strangled by the curtains, right? I mean, what do you do?
I know that sounds very odd.
I know.
It seemed to happen every night between you hear at 3 a.m, right? So between 2, 3 in the morning was the worst. And that got to be when I was a little bit older. And I think it was almost as if I tried to ignore, like I was going through a stage where I kept saying, there's something wrong with me. I'm ignoring you. You're not there. And when I did that, that's when things kind of got out of control.
Now, what I find interesting is that your partner, Ron, he's a ghost hunter, but he's on the skeptical side of the fence. So before we get started here, I want you to tell us about Ron, first off. Second, tell me the first time he had the crap scared out of him. Mr. Skeptic, right? That's the perfect person to be a victim.
Right. But I have to say, he hides it very well. So if you asked him if he ever had the crap scared out of him, I would say that, he holds it together pretty well. He pretty much, he doesn't look like he's afraid. And I think if you ask him, we do have one case we worked on, and it's in our first book, Ghost Chronicles, that we talked about it. But it was more the living that we're afraid of because going to an investigation than it is worrying about the dead.
And what is it about that? That's a really good point. It's a scary thing, right? And it doesn't matter if you're watching a ghost hunter paranormal TV show. We watch it to get scared. We don't watch it to go into happy land, right?
Right.
This is, but can we get hurt? Why are we so scared, and why do we enjoy it so much?
Yeah, well, everybody is different, but I will say that this, do you want me to give you the one instance that happened?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Ron would call me all the time and say, hey, we're going to go on this investigation, but he would never tell me where. He would just say, can you go? It'll take a couple hours. We're either going dress warm or we're going outside. We're going to someone's home, but he never gave me the specifics because, just to keep me honest, right? He didn't want me going on Google and researching the property to find out what had happened there and so forth. So this one day he calls me and says, hey, Maureen, it's 10 in the morning. Now I'm thinking, oh, come on, what can happen at 10 in the morning, right? So he said, come on, I got this investigation that I really need to do for this guy, and he needs help. Something's going on, so he needs help. Okay. So it's about 3 towns away. I get in the car with Ron. He comes and picks me up. We're chit-chatting. We get to this house, and it's this little ranch in this town in Massachusetts. And we get into the house, and I have to tell you, Jimmy, this place looked like a tornado went through it. Everything was smashed. The glass, he had, like a fireplace glass in front. He had his glass coffee table, the mirrors in his bathroom, just about every cup and dish and glass that was out on his counter. Everything was shattered. The floor was a hardwood floor, and it was covered with just debris, all glass everywhere. And then he said, his phone had been taken and broken. His friend was there with him, and his friend was using their phone together. And, my wallet was stolen. It went missing. And, so he was really upset. And he said, I need to find out what this, spirit wants. And he was adamant that it was a spirit of a little girl.
And he was living, Maureen, let me jump in. He was living in all of this debris and broken glass.
Yeah, I think what happened is it really escalated. I think it had happened, and then it, like the last day or two before, he wanted to leave it that way to show us what happened.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, so that's why it was important for Ron to say, hey, we have to go today. He said, you need to get there. So, I agreed to go. So I don't know. I pulled out my pendulum when we got in his house. Now, are you familiar with dowsing?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I used the pendulum and I was dowsing while I was communicating with the spirit. And, I could feel this really angst, like an anger of this. And I felt like a man was there, and he was there to kind of, it felt like revenge to me. And, this gentleman, I say, nice, try to be nice, in the house, was adamant, this was a little girl. I don't know why she's so upset at me, why she's breaking things. And I'm thinking, why would you think it's a little girl? So other than, the fact that, I don't know, the spirit might have been trying to get him to believe it was a little girl, but it just really wasn't. So, we spent a good hour there. We walked around, I kept trying to talk to him, but he was just fixated. This had to be a little girl. So I said, okay. So I said, well, I'm sorry. If we can't help you, he was getting very upset with us. So we walked outside of the house and it got really bizarre from that point. So this guy, Moose, which is this really tall, big guy, pulls Ron aside up near the front of the house and he takes his phone out. He goes, look, my phone is ringing. Now, this is before you could actually make cell phones show up with zeros, let's say, from a phone number. And the phone is ringing and you're looking down and there's nothing but zeros on the phone. And I thought, well, okay, that is odd. And then the owner of the home grabs me by my arm and he walks me down to the end of the driveway and he's giving the eye to the guy near Ron, like, keep him up there. And I thought, what is going on? And he starts telling me, I want you to come back here tonight by yourself. You have to come back here because I think she doesn't like Ron. And I said, yeah, I don't think that's a great idea. And he started, really getting adamant and angry. And he said, I don't know why you people don't think that it's a little girl. In fact, I know it has to be. So after about a moment, he turned to me and he said, well, I just was released from prison for killing my best friend.
Oh.
And so I'm standing there and the wheels
and he wants you to come back alone.
Exactly.
Right.
And I'm just staring up at the end of the driveway and I'm thinking, I am going to kill Ron, right?
Right.
Because, I'm like, oh my God, he's gotten me into this again. There's something getting into this situation that now I'm thinking, great, now I have to worry about that. So I told him, oh yeah, well, maybe we'll get in touch. I'll talk to Ron and see. And we got out of there by the skin of our teeth. And as we're driving away, Ron's looking at me, you're not going back there, right? You didn't give me your phone number. I'm like, no, I did not give him my phone number. And I can't believe that you didn't even, vet this guy out. Like, what? You just went here. And so, it was a little terrifying. And honestly, I don't know exactly what happened to him after that. I wasn't eager to contact him. And I tried to say that if you had to please contact Ron, that I couldn't be reached. So it was a little hairy. I thought, my God, like, you just don't know. When you're doing these investigations, you're putting a lot of trust in going out to these locations or residences. And honestly, you're putting yourself at the mercy to what you show up for.
Did you go back?
No.
Oh, man. You gotta go. You gotta go visit the serial killer ghost house.
Yeah, well, we didn't go back because I want to say that someone else he reached out to someone else to try to get assistance, and I was happy with that because I honestly wanted the spirit to get more help than him. And I'm trying not to be judgmental, but let's just say that I don't understand why he thought it was a little girl, but I guess. Denial is a good thing sometimes.
Yeah, right. How did you meet Ron? How did you guys get together?
Well, I've been working with Ron for about 17 years. Actually, Ron started the New England Ghost Project about 3 years before we got together, so about 20 years ago. And, for me, I had been, doing or working rather in the metaphysical for many years. And I was I think I was about 15 years old. As you said, I was introduced to someone who helped me to harness my gifts and learn about energy and so forth. And I was a medium for adult séances for about 3 years straight. So, years go by. I have a family and kids, and I just kept working and reading for people. And I thought, there's got to be more, right? If I'm supposed to be doing this, then, I need to kind of put myself out there. And if it's meant to be, I'm going to hook up with someone and I'll be working with a team. And the interesting part is about after having that little conversation, I think, with myself, I ended up going to a store I hadn't been to in like years. And I walked in and the gentleman recognized me and he said, Maureen, I haven't seen you in so long. And this is odd, but I have one newspaper, like they would get newspapers and hand them out to their customers. And he said, it's really odd. I have this one newspaper here. And for some reason, I think you need to have it. And, my husband's with me. He's like, okay, that's a little weird, but whatever. He's like, you were very polite about it. So I took the newspaper in the car and I started paging through it. And at the end of the last page, there was an article in there that was written by Ron in the New England Ghost Project. And I emailed him. And evidently something I had written in the email caught his attention. He called me, we got to dinner, went out to dinner. He interviewed me almost and he had me go to a haunted restaurant. And I guess I passed the test because within a week I was actually going out to do, investigate, let's say, this Wyndham restaurant, which is in our first book as well. And that was the first of a 4-part series for Halloween.
How do you know when you arrive somewhere that and this is kind of a twofold question, that it is actually haunted or there's something going on? Are you communicated with directly? And when you're watching a ghost hunting type of show, can you tell when something's not quite right, that maybe there's some deception going on?
Well, as far as for the first part of the question, when I go out on the site, it depends where we go. I mean, there are times we go out and it doesn't feel, may not feel very active, doesn't feel like a lot is going on. But when I'm walking into a site that a spirit is very eager to communicate, or I can feel there's an energy there, it's my own telltale signs are I feel like my third eye, my forehead starts tingling. I start feeling that the energy building, and the closer that spirit comes and the stronger they get. I've had times where it feels literally like I'm plugged into a wall socket and I'm just power. Like I feel my whole body just feels like it's on fire with energy. And that has been something that, has really I've noticed over and over and over again. And so much so that I'll turn to somebody and I'm almost dumbfounded sometimes because I'll look to see if anyone else is feeling what I'm feeling. Because, there's comfort in knowing that you're not by yourself, I guess. And as far as your second part of the question, I have only seen a couple shows. I know I'm awful, but I try to not watch all the ghost shows because I do it. It's like watching what you do all the time. And I figure if I watch it, then even subconsciously, I can actually kind of mimic what they're doing. And I just don't want to put myself in that space.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. I don't think surgeons watch films of, surgeons aren't watching Chicago Hope, right? or
you never know.
House. Well, yeah. Then again, you never know. Now, we're going to set things up for when we come back after the break. And when somebody says to you, and I know you get this all the time, what's your scariest story? What's the scariest thing? Is there one that comes to mind, or are they all scary?
Well, I try not to be scared, but I don't always succeed. But there are a couple that come to my mind that are terrifying, actually.
And what's the scariest city? What's the most haunted city? And is there one place that you consider the most haunted?
Well, in our book, More Ghost Chronicles, we did write about the Daniel Lady Farm, which is in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And that, I would say, first time I ever went to Gettysburg, put it this way, I was 50 miles outside of, Gettysburg, and actually was starting to feel ill. And I thought I ate something bad because I had never experienced feeling that so far away from a location. But obviously, with the amount of deaths that took place during the Civil War, it's kind of expected. But so much energy and intensity and tragedy that went on that there's many places that are haunted, and the spirits are around. But I would say that is one of the most haunted locations.
I just held it up to the camera to show everybody. I actually had that bookmarked.
You did?
I did. I absolutely did. So,
wow, I can tell you those stories. Oh my God.
So when we come back, let's actually start there. That you are a psychic. I got to say, I had it bookmarked, and so let's start there. I have only one ghost story myself. I've told it many times on the air. I'm not going to do that tonight. But I only have one. But when it happened at the time, I thought it was just a person. And then we found out a few minutes later that the house was empty, and I was looking back. Anyway, the moment that I found out that what I saw was probably a ghost, I freaked. I was totally
really
because before that I thought I saw a person. Right. Okay, so it's no harm, no foul. In fact, I thought it was a burglar or something. But then the next day, when I found out that somebody had tried to commit suicide or did commit suicide, and this other thing from the landlord. That's where I really got freaked out. I don't remember ever being comfortable around there again. But anyway, I only have that one story. You are going to share a bunch with us tonight. I wish you could see my studio here, the bunker. I've got all the lights down. Everybody can see on the camera that I'm here in the dark. I've got one little light on my face for the camera here, but I'm in the dark and I'm ready for this. So let's take a break and let's come back and kick off this night. I'm really looking forward to this, Maureen, and night number 2 of Halloween week here on Fade to Black. And when we come back, it will be the Daniel Lady Farm. The book is More Ghost Chronicles. We're also going to go back to book 1 as well. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. It's Halloween. Let's do this. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied, but you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm Chameleon. You're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Night 2 of our Halloween week. Our guest tonight, Maureen Wood. She's one half of the team, the ghost hunting team with Ron Kolok. Their new book is More Ghost Chronicles. And we're going to tell some scary ghost stories. And the first one is, Maureen, I'm actually going to hand it off to you, but it's the Daniel Lady Farm. And interesting that I would have this bookmarked and open it up as you said it. And it was kind of funny because the audience actually got to see that in real time on the cameras here. But what happened?
Ah, very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
So, you know, as far as Gettysburg, I'm sure many people are well versed with the tragedies, right? With all the loss of life that happened in July of 1863, that there was just so many souls that were lost. So if you know, just as many of the homes or restaurants, but back then the farms or locations, they were actually used to house, soldiers, right? That were injured, or they would set it up as a base camp that they would use for certain battles, or they would have it as a hospital that would take place. And this is the case for the Daniel Lady Farm. So when you go out to this property, they have this, this large brick house, and then off to the side, you'll have a very large barn. And when you go into the barn, it's a dirt floor. And, all the soldiers a lot of them that were there were held there after they had their surgeries or amputations, and they had signed their names and inscribed them in the wood, whatever cavalry or that they had been in. And so we went out there to do this investigation with Mark Nesbitt, who is a historian out there for researching in Gettysburg, and he does many tours to these locations. So in this one building, I have to tell you, if you've never have been out to Gettysburg, or if you haven't been, if you've heard of this location, you walk into this building and the hardwood floors are still soaked with blood. and you see, where there's handprints there's blood surrounding these handprints that are on the floor, because a lot of these soldiers had sat in there waiting for the next person to have the surgery, let's say. And at that time, because of the musket balls and so forth that was used during that time period, when it would hit an arm or a leg, it would shatter the bone and there was no saving it, right? So they would have to amputate, whatever limb was injured from the musket ball. And basically, they would open the windows around the Daniel Lady Farm, and they would have arms and legs would be piling up outside the windows.
Ooh.
So it's really horrific. And they would, in fact, on that property, there's actually graves of the body parts that were left behind. So a lot of things that had happened in there. One of them was, I'm not familiar. I don't know if you're familiar, Jimmy, and I don't say this to say, oh, me. But when I'm out and I'm investigating, it kind of transitioned to more than just mediumship at the time. It's trance-channeling the spirit that has come through. And I don't know if you're familiar with what that means.
Well, but it sounds like a lot of residual things are happening too as well. A lot of unresolved situations that are there that haven't gone back and get fixed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, what happens if a spirit is trying to communicate, and I'll often try to communicate back, I'll open up a little bit, right? And the spirit will come through. And so if I've got to be careful what I ask them, because if I ask them how they died, they'll, happily show me. And being empathic and feeling their energy, almost as if I'm reliving the last moments of their life, is pretty terrifying for me. And a lot of times, thankfully, I work with Ron and the team, because he now understands that if that's taking place and I need assistance, he's there to kind of help bring me back if need be. And I don't always, recall what has happened during those moments, but I will tell you, in Daniel Lady Farm, I recall feeling that I was in this room, I was up against this corner of this room, and the anxiety I felt, the fear, the terror, and I felt like I was trying to stop them from trying to cut my arm off. And the pain, I could feel his pain of this soldier, and it was just sheer misery for this poor man. So that was tough enough. But then, a little while, and so I feel bad, but when I was channeling, it really wasn't a pretty sight to see, evidently. And this poor man, Mark Nesbitt, let's just say he's afraid of me now. But anyway, that's kind of like a side effect, I guess, of it. But he told us this tale that happened in this place. Now, mind you, it's a tourist place, right? So they'll have tourists come out and they will talk about the location. They talk about the horrors that took place with all those soldiers. But what happened one night is there's a caretaker that takes care of the property. And Mark Nesbitt had left one night after a tour and he went home. And the caretaker called him, maybe a few hours later when it was, I don't know if it was midnight. And Mark Nesbitt, asked, what's the problem? He said, you have to come back here. He said, this floor, it looks like it's wet with blood. And so Mark went back. And being very, into research and scientific, we actually have a picture of this, and unfortunately it's not in the book, but when we do our talks, we show this. And he put a ruler out on the side of it, he measured the length of the liquid that was on the floor. He took a swab of it, put it into a plastic bag, put it in his car, and then, he really took down as much information as he could. And he said, and then he said, okay, well, we'll leave it and see what happens. He takes the ruler away and he talks to the caretaker and tells him, listen, I'm going to go home and I'll come back in the morning and we'll revisit this. So now Mark goes out of the home and he drives back to his house. Well, he gets another phone call. So the caretaker said to him, you have to come back here. You're not going to believe this. And he said, what? I'm on my way home. He's like, no, you have to come back. So he came back to the Daniel Lady Farm. He gets into the house and the blood was gone, right? So what happened was, not only was the blood gone, but if you looked around where the liquid had been, there was like a fine dust, when you have hardwood floor and you got a little bit dust going on that you didn't clean it. There was, again, instead of being liquid, it was completely gone, and there was a fine sheen of dust that was covering that area. And they couldn't make sense of it. They thought, what is going on? Because, the only thing they could think of is possibly almost like a time slip.
Right,
the past kind of came up with the present or intersected and then just disappeared. So now thinking, oh my God, I got a sample in my car. Is that gone too? So he ran out to his car, and sure enough, the sample was still there. So he sent it to a crime lab from, he had some friends, and they sent it to a crime lab, and it came back and it was human blood.
Oh.
Yeah. So that that farm is extremely active. And I would say if anybody's out in that area and decides, look up Mark Nesbitt, look up the Daniel Lady Farm, and make that one of your stops.
How you know how scary that is just listening to that? When you first saw the blood, you said liquid, and I find that interesting. Did it look like blood to you?
Well, I didn't see it. Mark Nesbitt was. We saw the picture,
right?
And it was red, but not completely red. There was liquid mixed in. It looked as if, I don't know, like it wasn't a thick blood, but it was bleeding, and the floor was covered in blood, like a good 2 feet of it.
When you hear something like that, I like the time slip thing. I actually thought of the same thing, and especially when he said that it was later, it was just dust was covering the area, and it wasn't wet anymore. There's that part of it. What do you make of that when you visit something like that, like Gettysburg, and you see something and you may think it's a reenactment, right? But you're actually seeing ghosts. Or right? Is this something that's common?
I don't know if it's common. I would say that, I'm sure that, I've heard tales, and I've seen different events that have happened where, for instance, you might see, someone talks about a certain location at a certain time, they'll see like a troop of soldiers walking down this street, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And it may happen, and those are more like a replay, like you're watching a video that are taking place. But again, do we know that for sure? How do we know it's not like a timeline? Like it's almost like the past coming together with the present. So Is that a rewind? Is that like a video that's replaying on a certain time? Or is that something that time is crossing?
Gigi Rabbit just posted this up on Twitter and says, have you heard of the Spaghetti Warehouse in Houston, Texas?
I have not, but I would love to hear about it.
Okay. He says it's one of the most popular urban legends of a haunted place in Houston that's been known for decades. The Spaghetti Warehouse. Are ghosts, Maureen, are ghosts only from this planet?
It depends who you talk to.
Right.
So, because, there are many thought processes on that, I don't even necessarily know for me if I say, I think personally, like when someone says someone dies and goes to heaven, I don't necessarily, my opinion is heaven's not a place, but a vibration. So to me, we're kind of all in this space, but we're vibrating at different levels energetically.
Now, just listening to this show, right? You're telling these stories. Are we in danger? Am I in danger? Right?
Oh, you must be psychic. I say that because, all right, I have to tell you a little story, and don't be afraid.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
Since you said that, so our books came in, and my husband, he does construction, right? So he goes to work, and he's funny because he's so grounded, and he pretends like he never talks about what I do, and then yet he comes home and he says, this guy at work would love one of your books. And I thought, well, how did that subject come up, right? And so anyway, he said, well, no. And he got our first book. And so this time he's working again, and this person wants the second book. Now, let's talk about the fact that this gentleman lives with his wife in they believe a haunted house. Okay.
There you go.
And they don't want me to come home. They don't want me to come investigate because they're afraid it's going to start getting active again, which I said, that's fine. I mean, it's free will. I'm not, I don't have to go to your house. That's fine. So I give him a book. Maybe last week he gets a book. So he tells my husband 2 days ago, well, I'm giving you the book back.
Right.
And he said, why? He said, well, because now things are starting to happen again in the house. And I said, oh, blame me. Right. So, something's going to happen. And so now, little things start to happen. And now his wife is saying, you need to get the book out of the house. And I'm like, oh, now, do I believe that that's the case? I don't know, but anything's possible. But I will say intention's a big thing, right? So to me, the intent of, spirits and, believing a lot of times in kind of, I hate to say inviting them, but just putting them on the forefront of your mind. Maybe these things were going on for these people and they had desensitized themselves, but now that they're reading into some of the paranormal stories, right?
Right.
It's kind of opening that awareness again.
I'll tell you something really funny. I said I had one ghost story, but about a year ago, Rita and I, we wrap the show, we go home, and we're sitting in bed, and we were talking about the show, and we have the typical master bedroom, at the foot, at the far side of the bedroom, master bath, and in that area is a master, walk-in closet. It's another room, right? A walk-in closet, and that's on the right. On the left, the commode, the toilet is in its own separate room, right, with a door,
right,
and which is always closed. But that particular toilet, the seat is like hard to move, right? It's impossible to move. And yes, I leave it up. The lid, not the seat, the lid. The lid
right.
is always up on the toilet. It creaks. It's hard. It just always stays up. And so we're sitting there in bed, talking, got books out or whatever, and boom, toilet seat falls. And Rita turns to me and she goes, "You gonna go check that out?"
Yeah.
I thought you were, honey. And she's like, "Are you going to go check it out?" I'm like, it was the toilet seat. It fell down. Exactly. It can't. And I didn't.
She's a very smart woman.
I did. You know what, Maureen? I didn't do it.
No.
I was like, just like anything, it's just, let's not disturb the spirits. And what and what about that, by the way? Do you advise people, they go and they watch these ghost hunting shows, so now they want to go and capture EVPs in their house and walk around the house like Zach Bagans, trying to anger the spirits and get something to happen. Do you, what kind of advice do you dispense with people that want to investigate their own house?
Be careful. And I say that in such a way because, we have EVP specialists that are on our team. And let's just say that from what I've heard, and I don't really go and record them myself, right, because I'm doing other things. But when you're using the taking EVPs, for instance, now I'm not saying you have to be terrified of everywhere you go. However, depending on where your location is, and you're making the acknowledgement, right, that you're communicating. And from what I've heard, when you are starting to get voices on the recorder, sometimes it takes a while. You may not get, anything for a while, but if you keep at it, you can. But from what I heard, that what happens is sometimes you get the lower lying energies that are out there. So you might hear swearing and screaming, and it could be very disconcerting rather to hear that and you're not, you're expecting to have this sweet spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone's in your home, they're very kind and they're very sweet. You'd hope so anyway. And I'm not saying that everything's demonic, but there are spirits out there that may not be the sweetest, that you might be picking up on your EVPs, let's say.
What kind of recorders do you guys use?
I want to say that they use just Panasonics. There was a certain brand, and I cannot recall at the top of my head, but there was one that was out there that it was like Panasonic 360 or 560 or something like that. And it was one that was like, it was hot buy if you could get it on eBay, because they were a little bit older, but they were supposedly had a lot more clarity. And when you were recording, you can get a much better sound quality.
We've got Tascam. We use the Tascam DR100 Mark IIIs. And that's what we use. But yeah, and EVPs freak me out. I mean, seriously, I mean, out of everything. And what's your give me an EVP story?
Well, one of them actually that Ron and I were just chuckling about today was, people will say, hey, do spirits know that you're coming, right? Or do they recognize you when you're there? And as odd as this may sound, we actually went to this one investigation one time. And, when you're setting up your equipment and you're putting out the recorders and you're not even totally ready yet, right? But you have your equipment out and maybe someone has it recording at the time. But what we later heard was, we were asking questions of the homeowners, and in the back it said, it's the Ghostbusters. And you think it was kind of funny, and so much so it sounded so clear that we did many talks for years, and Ron would play that as we walked in, just because it really was an EVP that he picked up.
How do you do that? How do you stir the spirit to get them, or are EVPs accidental? We make a conscious intent to when we start communicating. So everybody's a part of the team. So as I'm feeling that energy come in, and I can feel them trying to communicate, we'll ask questions. We'll kind of hover around, we get into a circle, and then we have someone doing the photography, another person with the thermal, maybe a thermal imaging camera or temperature sensors. We'll have some videos depending on if it's something they see lights or activity that goes on, objects moving, we'll make sure to videotape. And then we have someone there with us doing the EVPs, and we'll stand there and take moments and ask a question and allow a response to come. Let's tell me about, there's so many great titles here, but I've got a few that were marked, and the 1859 house. What happened there?
That one was, I don't know if you recall the history of it, but the 1859 house was pretty much the movers and shakers of time in that time period. They were, they had they played gambling, and they had pool tables, and, it was a place for the gentleman's club to meet. And they had, ladies of the night, let's say, that they would bring to this location and so forth. And Ron, set this event up with, bringing about maybe 30 to 35 people, if not more, on an actual investigation. We did an investigation to teach people how to investigate. So the most active location there is down in the basement. So, all of us we split up the teams, and then half of us went down in the basement. And this particular investigation was one that I had been early on. So maybe I'd been a month or two with the Ghost Project. So when we got inside the 1859 house, we're down in the basement, and Ron and I was still kind of learning, from each other. So working together, and I'm over there starting to feel energy. So I'm trying to explain to Ron that I can feel the presence of this spirit there. And he was angry, right? And, not that everybody is, but I could feel his angst. He showed me that he got hit in the back of the head. He had been killed by a woman there, and he was so furious. And I recall hearing the recording later, but I was screaming and swearing at, the woman. I'll try to be nice on the radio. And so what happened is I told Ron I could feel this energy around us. And so Ron, I'm sure you're familiar with an EMF meter, right?
Of course, yes.
Okay. So, Ron being Ron, he's got the EMF meter and he's holding it waist high and, he's not sure to trust me, right? And he's saying, oh, come on, Maureen, there can't be anybody here because it's not even going off. I don't even register anything. I'm like, Ron, he's above our heads. It was almost as if the spirit was hovering over us and, I could feel this anger. I mean, I couldn't even express it more than just, putrid anger. And so he's floating above us. And so Ron, I said, please put the meter up above our heads. So he puts the meter over my head and it starts blaring like it didn't even stop. It's just going nonstop red. It's beeping, continuously. And so, you have to be careful when you're communicating with the spirit, because if you're too literal and you're not, you got to be careful what you say, in other words. So, I'm listening to what Ron's saying. He's like, oh, yeah, wow, he's right here. So he's like, well, he's above us. Tell him, reel him in. Well, in my mind, you know how you hear what someone says? It was almost as if I was consciously saying that. Mm-hmm. And the spirit came from above me, came right down straight into my abdomen. And he followed it with the EMF meter. Like he literally followed the stream of the light coming right down to my abdomen, and I dropped like a rock. The energy came in. It literally took every bit of energy I had, absorbed my own. I couldn't even get off the floor. I'm thinking, oh, lesson learned over here, be careful what you ask for, reel them in probably wasn't the best word to ask. And thankfully at that time, there was a couple of women who were from a spiritualist church there, and they had worked with energy and Reiki masters. And so they sat there with me, trying to help me build my energy back up so that I could continue for the night. And it was rough. It was a rough night in there.
What did you feel like? Could you tell that your body was entered by by an entity?
Yeah, it happened. Channeling, you can feel that, but I always say that it's like a karmic dance, right? So if a spirit comes in, sometimes if they come in lightly, it's not a big deal, and I could feel that energy and I can communicate and try to relay what they want, or they might stand next to me and close to me and I'm actually getting the thought in my mind, or they whisper in my ear, or it's a little different every time. But when I say they cross that karmic line is because they don't care if they steal your energy, right? In fact, they need energy to manifest. So guess what? You have energy. I'm going to take it. And so that's what coming in for me, it's as if, you're stealing everything of energy that I have. And I feel after like a worn out, dish rag, when you say, if you can imagine a dish rag and you wring that out, and it's just limp and lifeless. That's what I feel like.
Right. And did your legs just give out? And what did you see, by the way? Did your vision get blurred? It
went dark.
Yeah, it went dark.
Yeah, it just went blurry and dark, and the energy got so escalated that it got escalated, and then almost as if I had a glass of water that they just emptied. I had nothing left. They had to drag me over to the side so that they could help me get on my feet.
What do you get energized from that? Not from the incident, but are you ready to just go back and face the spirits now? Maybe a little anger.
Sometimes if for those who have read the first book, right, they'd be like, oh my God, Maureen, like, what are you doing? And you have to understand, when you're writing the stories, you're not going to pick the boring ones, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to pick the stories that were intense. So in those moments, I would read it after myself and go, yeah, I left a lot. So when things would get really intense, I need to breathe. I literally need to get off the property, get out of the way for a few minutes and catch my breath. So that I can build my energy back up and then go back in. And you can't let yourself be afraid. I think I'm afraid later. If I watch a scary movie, Jimmy, I'm terrified. But if I go on an investigation, I'm fine. And I think it's because I can allow myself to be in that fearful state versus if I'm on an investigation. If I allow myself to get too afraid, I'm easy pickings.
I keep thinking to myself, it's really funny. I just remembered another ghost story of ours. Okay, I'll share my brief little boring stuff when we come back. Our guest tonight,
great.
Maureen Wood. And when we come back, we're going to go to book one. We'll take a trip backwards. And Maureen is going to tell us the story about when she brought a friend home. And it's not what you think. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Maureen Wood after this short break.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Teppy. Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
If you have hard water, the lime scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate lime scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products, available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Lots of ghostly activity going on there. Tonight is night 2 of our Halloween week. Maureen Wood is here with us, and her book that she co-wrote with her partner, Ron Kolok, is called More Ghost Chronicles. And Maureen, so I'm sitting here thinking, I've got one ghost story. Well, actually, they're starting to come back. One, briefly. Rita and I are staying up at Mount Shasta, and we're in an Airbnb, this house. It's probably 150-year-old house. Really old. Lots of antiques. Little cards were laid out around the house describing the different antiques. And in the bedroom was a wardrobe that had an old dress in it, and there's a description of this lace white wedding dress thing that was in there, and that was kind of creepy. And but anyway, all of the door handles throughout the house were the old ones, right, with the crystal knobs, old. And the bedroom door we had to push shut and force it shut, and then wiggle the handle and wait for it to catch, right, for it to close. So I close it, right, and I push the door, and I wiggle it, and it latches. And we're sitting there in bed, and for a few minutes, and all of a sudden, the door literally goes click and opens.
Yeah, that would be unnerving.
Oh, man. And we're staring at each other, and she's like, "Are you going to shut the door?" Nope. I'm not kidding.
What is she have you there for? You're supposed to be doing that sort of thing.
That door stayed open, and it unlatched. It went click, click, and I knew it. I knew it when I heard it go click, click. It was going to open, and it did, and it 6 inches, and I'm looking at it, and it's like, okay, let's. Everything is cool. Everything is cool. Nothing bad has happened, but they just let us know. It was pretty interesting. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to book 1, and the story, which I haven't heard yet, and I'm going to let everybody know. Maureen said, I've got to tell you the story from book 1 when I brought somebody home with me. So what happened?
Okay, so I can say it easily because my husband's sleeping right now, so he won't hear me. But let's just say that my husband's, is a great guy. He's always tried to have been supportive of me. However, it's interesting to have a medium for a wife, and he's terrified of the dead.
Right.
So it's just this opposites, right? So all the time we've been married for it'll be 35 years next year. So I've been 19 years old when I got married to him, and, I was still doing all this then. And, he'd say, "Oh, you'll grow out of it." This, cause he wanted to say this, he couldn't understand why I would chase the dead. And I'm like, I'm not chasing the dead. They're chasing me. But so now that little bit of background. So let's just say we do an investigation, which is in book 1, and it's at the Concord Colonial Inn in Concord, Mass. It's an inn that obviously was originally a home and then a boarding house, and it was built before the 1700s. So it's been around for quite a while. In fact, I think Thoreau and his aunts had lived there for a period of time. So, it's rumored to be built on an Indian burial ground and all this stuff. And this inn itself is very, very paranormally active, right? So you have the haunted room 24. You have books will come flying off their shelves downstairs in their dining room. Lights, in fact, the wait staff and nobody wants to go, upstairs to that room because they're literally terrified. So as part of our investigation, Ron and and his team were invited, so we all went to go there. We had dinner. Ron and his wife were going to be staying in that room for the night, and we were going to do the radio show before we left for the night. And Ron and his wife stayed there, and they had the cameras on and so forth. Now, here's the deal. So Ron and his wife were there. Another of our team members, it's, they're couples, right? So boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, everybody's together. Me, I'm by myself. So my husband would always try to be supportive, and he'd say, I'm going to come meet you for dinner. And then he would always call and cancel. I'm late. I can't make it. And I know it's because he's terrified, right? So I say, that's fine. Well, anyway, the night goes on, we investigate. So we're in this haunted room 24. We do the radio show. Well, I'm like, look, it's 2 a.m. now. I'm literally going home. I can't, and they're asking, so why didn't Steve show up tonight? And I'm like, yeah. Well, you guys are lucky because of, your couples, right? And I said, yeah, that's okay. So I said, I'm going to use your bathroom. So I go into the bathroom. Now, Jimmy, I'm in there. I obviously use the facilities. I go to wash my hands. I look up in the mirror, and in front of me now is this woman with dark hair. I'm more blonde, right? So this is dark hair in a Victorian gown. And I thought, oh boy, and I'm wanted to speak with her, but I said, I'm sorry, I'm so tired. I'll make a trip back. I'll come back and I'll talk with you.
What?
So I know it's kind of crazy, but I was exhausted. I mean, we had been there for hours, right? Investigating all night. And so I come out of the bathroom, and Ron right away, they're talking to me about, again, why didn't Steve come? And that's too bad. And I said, you know what? He just needs maybe he needs an experience for himself. Well, don't say that in a haunted environment. Probably not a good thing to say.
Wait, you didn't tell Ron, by the way, I was just, chatting with somebody in the bathroom.
Yeah, I did, but
Okay.
that's when I did tell him, like, immediately after I said, and in fact, you are psychic, because that's exactly what I told him. I'm like, by the way, there's a woman in your bathroom, and Ron being Ron, he's always Mr. Funny. He's like, woohoo, right? And he jumps on the bed and he makes this big scene of like, come and get me. And I'm like, don't say that. I said, and you know what? Be careful what you wish for. So I brought up, the Ghostbusters, right? I said, remember the librarian, how she was so beautiful, but when when the spirit came out, her face shriveled away to nothing but a skull and eye sockets, right? So he's like, yeah, whatever. So now I'm thinking, okay, good night. I'm going home. So I leave. But now, Jimmy, when I leave, I, do a cleansing and I do all this stuff for myself just to get myself clear. So when I go home, for some reason that night I was exhausted. I just could not even, I could barely keep my eyes open to drive home. So I said, I'm just going to go home. So I go home, I get into my house. Now it's like 3 a.m. I go to bed. So I never slept so good. I get up the next morning, however, my poor husband, when I tell you, he looked like a deer in the headlights. He was furious. He looked at me and he's like, you go and investigate the paranormal. You sleep in another bedroom. And I'm like, what are you talking about, right? So he says, you came home last night. I heard you get in bed. He goes, and then a little while later, you were rubbing my back. And I'm like, no, I wasn't, And he's like, yeah. He said, and then I was kissing you. And, and he says, and all of a sudden, the light came in from the curtains of the window. And I looked down, he said, and your face shriveled away to nothing but a skull and eye sockets. He goes, and then I turned to my left and you were sleeping. Well, I'm sorry, but I finally, vindicated. I was laughing so hard, and the poor guy, he was so angry with me. And he was terrified. So anyway, after he kind of, dealt with it, I said, okay, can I write that? And can I put that in a book? And he's like, yeah, sure. Cause he's thinking you'll never write it. And sure enough, it made it into our first book. And, when the publishers saw it, they were like, oh my God, you have to tone that down. That's not funny. I'm like, no, it's funny. When you're a medium and you live with someone who thinks that you're, a little bit crazy sometimes, and, and then he finally experiences for himself, right?
Right.
Then, yeah, that is funny. I'm sorry.
No, that is crazy scary. Did he?
I know, I'm awful.
Yeah. That's kind of an evil laugh too. You're right. He doesn't need to hear the story again. But how is he today? Is he one of us now?
No, because it's funny because if he went to a book signing one time with us, and there was someone in the audience, and after the stories, he was in the audience and wasn't up front or anything. And the person said, I want to ask the husband of Maureen a question. And he's like, what? Like, what do you want to ask me? And they said, what do you think? And he said, well, you know what? He says, I know there's something. I don't know what it is, but let's just say I have to sleep with her. And I thought, well, thanks. I guess that's an okay answer.
He kissed a ghost.
Yeah. Then I said to him, oh my God, you cheated on me with a ghost.
Now, and the ghost touched him.
Well, yeah.
That's getting into the physical side of things.
Yeah.
Do you have a story of being touched?
Oh, well, I have some ones that are not in the book. But it actually happened, in a 3-tenement building when I was going out with my husband. We were engaged to get married, and he lived in the top of this 3-tenement home in Lawrence, Massachusetts. And I have to tell you, I always, do you ever get that feeling you walk up to something, it's not right? You don't know why, but you just don't feel good about it, right?
All the time, sure.
Yeah. So, even then, so I used to tell him, I really don't like it here. I don't want to be in this place. I don't like, and he had some friends that lived with him, so he wasn't by himself. But this one night, and, at the time we were young, and my husband used to, he's a construction worker, and he was a hunter, and, he had a habit of not being, didn't want to he would take too many days off. So, of course, me being very responsible, even at 19, I'd say to him, we're getting married in a couple months, and you really need to kind of, focus on staying at work and, all this stuff. And he always would just go off and hunt. So, anyway, this one day I decide I'm going to stay at his house with him, and I'll get up and leave to go to work in the morning, before I go home, or at night. And so, it was raining, and I remember it really raining really hard, and they left. Him and his friends left for work. They said, we're going to work anyway. So they take off out of this 3-tenement building. Well, I fall back to sleep. And then I wake up because I hear the kitchen door slam. And the next thing I know, the bedroom door opens up. And there was someone standing there that I thought was my husband, and he was dressed in hunting gear. And so right away, I'm getting really upset thinking, wow, you tell me you're going to be good and you're going to go to work, and yet you're standing here and you're in hunting gear. But when I looked at him, Jimmy, the spirit, the eyes were completely black. And it just came and turned, and then I couldn't even hardly move, but my eyes looked to the left, and right on the wall was all my husband's hunting clothes. So I'm thinking, oh, dear God. And it took me a moment to realize that it wasn't my husband.
Wow.
Or my fiance. I don't know what it was. I think it was a doppelganger. So it was someone that trying to take the shape of him to come near me. And this thing came right close to me, leaned down over my face. It was like an inch away from my face. And it was one of those, when you hear that somebody has those terrors that you can't move. It felt like forever that I could not even move to get off the bed. But for me, I closed my eyes and I prayed and prayed and prayed, and I opened my eyes, and it finally dissipated. And I got up, and I'll tell you, I never moved so fast, getting dressed, throwing my clothes halfway on, sliding down, getting out of the 3rd floor and just getting out to my car. And I told my husband, I'm like, I am never going there again. I'm never, staying in that your building. That's it. I'm not, because I don't want to deal with that. And so he's, him and his friends were chuckling over it. But then the landlord came by, and he told the story to the landlord, thinking the landlord would laugh it off. And he told him, well, why do you think I left? Because he used to live on that floor, and that was the bedroom he lived in with his wife. And something would pull up the covers and pull them up and down, like all night. Things would happen. And it turned out that building used to be a funeral parlor. The 3 floors, and they would embalm the bodies in the building. And that, because it always had a very weird look to it, is because it only had a little square or a patch of grass, but that's where they put the sign for the funeral parlor.
How could that not make it to the book?
I know, but that happened before the Ghost Project.
Oh, I mean,
so I'm working on my own book, actually, and that's it's going to go in that.
Right. Okay. I get you. It's like, how good is the book if that didn't make it to the book? I mean,
Right. I mean, I can tell you tons of things that, wasn't, but those are the, but again, when it was Ghost Chronicles is because it's, part of the team, right? So those are the ones that we put in the book.
And one more. Give us one more from the Ghost Chronicles, and then we'll get back to the new book, more Ghost Chronicles.
All right. So let's see which one. Oh, how about Lizzie Borden house?
There you go. There you go. The Lizzie Borden house. You know what? You just look at that house and you know it's haunted.
It's horrific. I have to tell you.
And it's not very big, is it? It's a tiny little place.
Actually, it's not. It's a good size. It's not that. It's not really tiny. It's broken up, just like New England homes, right? They're built. It almost seems like they build them and then they build rooms off of them. So the Lizzie Borden house was actually being used for a little while as like a bed and breakfast. It's pretty, if anybody is not familiar, Lizzie Borden, and I'd have to go back and read the dates, but I want to say in the 1900s, early 1900s or late 1800s, actually, she was accused of, had gone to court rather too for, believing killing the stepmother and her father and hacking them with a axe. Numerous times, in the head and so forth. But now, growing up in Massachusetts, how could you not know, right? All about the Lizzie Borden tragedy, right, that took place. And, we all heard about the rhyme that would go along with it for years as kids. But I'd never been there, and I'd never walked through the house. I'd never gone and, done an investigations, never did anything. And then one time Ron said, hey, we got this place. We're going in Fall River, Massachusetts, and we're going out. And I'm thinking, I wondered if it was going to be the Lizzie Borden house. And when we got there, I'll tell you, going into the room and walking by the basement, there was like a basement going downstairs in the little hallway. And just walking by the hallway, I could feel just the evil. That's what it felt like to me, is evil coming up from the basement. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a wonderful night, and we walked in and, we go to do that investigation. And what happened was I started feeling energy almost immediately in the house. And, Ron's like, getting really frustrated with me because he's like, come on, we're not even set up. We got to set everything up, and we actually had some people from England that were visiting. We had Gavin Cromwell, who was another medium. There was actually a television crew that were coming with us. They were doing interviews here. So that's why Ron chose the Lizzie Borden house. So we get there and, finally when everybody's set up, we decide all the lights are out now. We're going to go walk upstairs and see, what room we go into and, we'll see if we can make communication. Now, when we went into this room, I didn't even know whose room it was, had no understanding of where we were in Lizzie Borden house. But, Ron's like, okay, let's see if we can make communication. And once again, I started feeling this energy, and it started ramping up. And remember I told you when you ask how they died, they're more than happy to show you, right? So I want to say that we communicated with Abby at the time, which is the stepmother. So as I'm standing there with Gavin Cromwell and Ron and the whole team, the energy got so strong. And Jimmy, I felt like somebody was hacking me in the back of the head with an axe. I start involuntary gasping and gagging. I don't even know, but I saw the video later, which I could not even look at. I've seen a small snippet of it. I don't even want to deal with it. But I was, they wanted to turn the lights on because it sounded like I was coughing up blood. And the creepiest part for me was after I was channeling and I went through the whole process of feeling like I had been murdered. I was like a sack of potatoes falling down on the floor. But when they finally turned the lights on and I was able to regain my composure, Ron was a little taken aback because he looked up at the wall, and in that home, the woman had done a great job of putting all the murder photos in there on the walls. And the position that Abby was laying was the exact same position I was in on the floor right below the picture. And and the fact that she was there and you saw her death, in other words, right there.
Now, she was killed in her bed.
Yes.
Right? And he
in her
was
bedroom.
In the bedroom, and he was killed on the couch.
Yes. And then if you're downstairs into that living room, they literally have the exact green velvet couch, right?
I'm looking at it here. Did you sit on the couch?
Yes.
Oh, man. Okay, let's go back to the bedroom. I'm looking at the bedroom here, and you're right. They've got all the crime scene photos on the dresser. How creepy is that? And so that's the original. That's the same bed.
It probably is. I mean, I know this woman has done a great job of recreating. And if it wasn't, I think she just, might have refurbished it to get it back to, the state to be usable, but also some of the original pieces. Right. Yeah, I'm looking at the photos here. That reminds me of the bedroom of what I just described to you, where the door opened, right? It's done the same way, right? All the antiques are there. Right. Yeah. Okay. But so back to the bedroom. What happened? Well, we communicated with Abby. We have the videos, and really that's what happened in that room, right? Is going through channeling her and feeling her death. And that just was Ron and I ended up tussling, which is sometimes happens because he tries to, there are times when, let's say, I'm flailing around and he's trying to keep me from getting hurt. And so in that moment, I think I kind of kicked him somewhere where it wasn't pleasant, but it wasn't intentional. So, but no, I think everybody there was a little bit taken aback because they weren't, they were not expecting to have that happen. And they were swearing that they could hear the liquid hit the floor. So I don't know what was going on at the time. I was in and out of it. But it wasn't, and so many times today, in fact, we did a talk at one of the colleges, and Ron said to me, Maureen, I'm just going to put a couple of videos in there. And I thought, what are you doing? And I don't like watching the videos, Jimmy. I have a very difficult time seeing myself channel. Yeah. What happened? We've got about 2 minutes before the break. What happened? Anything happened down in the living room where the father was killed? Well, what happened downstairs is Ron and I tell you, I came close. As far as her recreation, she had a basket in the kitchen right next to the living room where the father had been. And there was an axe. She put an axe in the basket. Okay. Right. So I'm standing there and I start feeling this energy, and Ron's looking at me, and honest to God, Jimmy, if I had to walk out of the house because I thought I was going to pick up the axe and use it. And it was as if I don't know if I was, picking up. Wait. What'd you just say? Yeah, I know. Well, you know how I said you're feeling the energy of the spirit that was there? Yeah. And I don't know if it was Lizzie Borden that I was picking up on, but I seriously had the urge to pick up the axe and use it on Ron. And I thought, oh my God, like I was holding my hands in my pocket, and it was horrible because it was this, like, I never had that feeling. I'm not someone who's going to go murder somebody, but I kid you not, that's what it felt like. I'm just absorbing your words. Yeah, well, and me too. How do you deal with that? I mean, I'm sitting here dealing with it as you tell me, but at that moment, it's kind of like, I'm thinking like Jack Nicholson in The Shining, right? Where he is just absolutely possessed. He's no longer in control of himself. And that's the frightening part about this. Exactly. For you, how did you keep control? What do you do? I really have not been in that situation other than, sometimes in certain situations, if the spirit is angry with Ron, let's say, and if you know Ron and people who have heard Ron, he can get really, he does it jokingly or he tries to get communication going. But there's times where I just want to strike him. And I'm thinking, oh, my goodness, like it's the spirit is coming through. And there's times I've dislocated his finger, or he had open heart surgery and we were wrestling on the ground and he ended up getting hurt. And I would never myself do that to hurt him. It just happens. Right. Mm-hmm. And as far as control, I'll try to push the spirit out, or I will physically walk backwards, like trying to get away from him. And Ron knows the telltale signs to, that maybe just back off, and not come too close.
Do you think, it's a bed and breakfast now? Is it a good idea to stay there? Is there a lot of bad experiences, or are people just there for the thrill?
It used to. I don't even know if it still is. I think she's let different investigative teams stay there, but it used to be a bed and breakfast. I don't think it is anymore. But I think a lot of people have had different experiences. They would have covers and things moved off their legs in the bed, or the rocking chairs would be moving. Objects would be moving inside. They'd hear voices, coming from the rafters in the certain rooms. Doors would open and close by themselves. She even had the same thing with, a phone call coming in, and it was all sixes. She's had many different really strange events that have occurred in that house.
It's bigger than I remembered. I always picture the front of the house, but no, it is actually a pretty good size. All right, let's take a break right here. Our guest tonight, Maureen Wood. We're talking ghost stories from her new book, More Ghost Chronicles. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, and we'll be back right after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal God, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out. That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-717-WAVE, 888-717-WAVE, or visit dryhealthyhome.com. Dryhealthyhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Night 2 of our Halloween week. Maureen Wood is here. We're talking ghost stories from her new book with Ron Kolok. I'm holding it up to the camera. More Ghost Chronicles. And Maureen, do you think that some of these locations are just over-investigated?
You know, I do sometimes, right? And I think that sometimes after you have it investigated, you have a lot more spirits there than were before. Whether someone has brought some in, whether the intention of them being there, you might have, have almost as if it's got a life of its own.
Right, and Zach Bagans was just there and it made some things angry. We'll teach the next crew that comes in here. Yeah. So I've
exactly.
I've often thought about that, but this book, these are locations that I haven't heard about before, like the New London Ledge Lighthouse, and I have that story. I'll hold it up. I have that one earmarked too as well. What happened there? Tell us about it.
Well, the New London Ledge Lighthouse, and that was very interesting, right? Because we went out into to go dropped off from a boat. Now, it actually won an Emmy for the American Builder show. So what happened is originally, I don't know if you're familiar with the American Builder shows on in like 2009, 2008 or something like that. Right. What it was Jimmy, like a construction worker, and he wanted to go out and have a Halloween experience, and he wanted to be, go out with an investigative team out and be dropped off on an island or a lighthouse overnight and see if there's anything was going to happen, so it was like Scared Jimmy. That's pretty much what it was. So we all went together. They picked the New London Ledge Lighthouse to go to in Connecticut. And so we went to this lighthouse, got dropped off, and, we get there and it's very ominous anyway, right? So I don't know if you see a picture of it. You look at it and it's this little house like right out obviously in the ocean, right? So we get dropped off. The night starts off pretty blasé, I'd say. We're walking around, we go in the basement. We got a little bit of communication, but not too much. And what happened is it started going a little bit darker at night. It gets a little bit later. One of the EVP specialists at the time, Karen Mossy, went out with Jimmy, and they went out to the outside of the lighthouse.
Well, let me just jump in here. This place is haunted. I mean, you know it pulling up in the... Okay, so I'm going to describe this to everybody. This is sitting out in the middle of the water by itself. It's not on land.
Right.
It's surrounded by concrete, and it's a 3-story house, painted red of all things, and then with a little lighthouse on the top of it. It's not your typical lighthouse that you see on, that we're all familiar with. This thing is crazy. I mean, that's going there. It's not right.
Well, absolutely. And, the legend, it was built in the 1900s, early 1900s, right? So the legend was that the wife of Ernie, the lighthouse keeper, had run off with the captain of Block Island Ferry. And because he was so distraught over it, the rumor was Ernie jumped from the roof of the lighthouse and died. Now, we didn't come across Ernie, but I will say that we ended up doing a séance upstairs in, I think, the third bed on the third floor in the bedroom on the right-hand side, right? So we were there with Jimmy. We had EVP specialists. We had a Ouija board that Ron had brought with him.
God.
Yeah. Oh my God. Let me tell you. So they had base camp set up. And we had, they had the cameras going. And usually when you have paranormal activity and the spirit starts coming in stronger, what happens, right? It affects the broadcast, or it affects the, television monitors, and everything's static, right? So you start getting that static comes in, and you're not getting any clear viewing. So we didn't know it at the time, but as we were communicating, we were actually getting EVP on their equipment that they set up for base camp, and that the television crew had set up, because they found this later when they went back and reviewed all the recordings. So what we did get, though, while we're sitting there and we were using the Ouija board, was it seemed like a spirit of a woman came through first, and she wanted to know why we were there, and she was trying to figure out what was going on. And since you investigate, Jimmy, this other spirit came in, and it was a man spirit, and he was a little bit more adamant that he wanted to come through. And he was angry, and he did say, now I didn't know anything at the time about the rumor of somebody jumping off the top of the lighthouse, but he did say, in other words, that he was a worker there, that had been sitting up on the top of the lighthouse. It got locked out, and someone locked him out, and he fell to his death. Now there's been no reports. If you did research, there's no lighthouse keeper Ernie. And they said, there's no report of somebody that had died coming off the lighthouse. But in that time period, if it was a worker, it may not have been talked about. It might have been, hidden. It wasn't something that they were going to, make a big deal out of.
Right.
Right. But for me, that night was hard to deal with. So let me explain it this way. I told you already, I don't like seeing myself channel, right? So this is on major TV. We have this video. And so now I'm given a CD of it, right? And my mother, who was at the time, when she was alive, was very supportive. She wanted to see this video. Well, I didn't want to show it because I knew it would look horrific of me. It would be terrifying. It's terrifying for me. I didn't want her to see that. And so I was hiding the video. And then Ron said to me, Maureen, it's been months. Didn't you watch that yet? I'm like, no. He's like, why don't you just watch it? Well, sure enough, nobody's home one day. I go to watch it. My mother stops in. And I'm like, oh. So she walks in, she's like, oh, I'm so excited. We can watch it together. I'm like, yay. Right. So she sits down beside me, and that part came on that I was channeling that spirit. And again, it wasn't a pretty sight. And my mother just looked at me. She couldn't even look at me at that time. She put her hand on my thigh and she squeezed it, and I could see her stiffen, like her whole body demeanor changed. And she looked at me and she just said, I'm afraid for you. And I just felt so bad, and I said, I'm fine, Mom, really, I'm okay. And she's like, that's horrible, Maureen, that's horrible. I'm like, I know. But, Jimmy, the stuff that happened, not just that night when we investigated, but how you say, does this happen? Do you bring spirits? Like you say, you bring spirits home?
Right.
The crew that had investigated took all their tapes and their information and recordings back to the studio, as they would have to cut the clips and make it work and put it together. Well, I guess something happened at the studio. Every time they were trying to run those pieces of that night, the lights went out. The generator had a problem. There was issues at the station, so much so that the people refused to go inside to the studio when they were running it. They didn't want it. And then when they played this, people were calling in from their homes saying, oh my God, this is terrifying. I can't believe that you showed this on TV. When's the next time you're going to do it again? So
I just posted pictures of it, and it's funny. The first reaction was, "Oh, sweet baby Jesus, that place is haunted." And and you look at it. What was it like when you pull up, to the boat and step onto this structure? It just looks
terrified.
It looks wrong. It just what could go wrong, right?
And you're there overnight, and that's the thing. The boat's gone. It's not like you have a boat.
No,
sitting
you can't
outside.
run. No, you can't run. Right.
You have nowhere to go, and so at night when it got really crazy, I'm thinking, now where do I go? Right? Like I have nowhere to go. It's not like I could go outside if I wanted, but that didn't make me feel any better because as I was saying before, like Karen, the EVP specialist, went with Jimmy outside, and there had been a story that a boat, in the history of the lighthouse, a boat had smashed up against the lighthouse and broken up, and they had the woman had passed away, and I guess she was brought up on top of where the cement structure is, and they don't, they believe that she might be the spirit that is haunting that location as well. Well, Karen had gotten an EVP that when you play it, it's just you hear her this haunting sound saying, "I'm cold." And that's what you hear is the "I'm cold," and it's like, oh, like it just, it really is heart-wrenching to hear that. And and guess what? Jimmy, so now Ron, we had the radio show at the time, right? We're on this local station, WCCM, where after this is all done, Jimmy comes on the radio show with another person that was on the investigation. Ron and I are talking to him, and guess what happens? As we're talking about it, we're asking Jimmy his thoughts. And by now, Jimmy was like, oh my God, like he didn't want to feel like he wasn't a big man, right? He wanted to say he was, I was strong, I wasn't nervous. And I said, well, that's fine, that's okay. And he's like, well, you guys must have done something. I don't know if I believe in it. And all of a sudden, in the radio station, it was like a foghorn went off. Like you had a foghorn for the lighthouse just blared in the radio station. The guy who was doing the electronics, the boards, he's like all confused, like where did that come from? And Jimmy and the person on the phone thought that we set it up and that we put that foghorn on as a part of an effect, which we don't even know where it came from.
What happened to you? You step off the boat and you climb up. You've got to go upstairs and stuff, and you start to what happened? Things just must have gone crazy there. Take us through that.
Yeah, it's, you go up the stairs and, it was very ominous, right? So you're walking up the stairs. It's now pitch black at night. Everybody's behind you. You got the television crews going there. And as we're walking into this room, it's almost as if someone's sitting in the corner, like just waiting. You could feel like you're being watched the whole time. And we had everybody doing the EVPs and we were going around and, for a while, we thought, oh, well, let's check out the rest of the place. We're going to go around the rest of the building. So we walked away for a moment from that room where we had done the Ouija board, and we went to where you'd go up to the top of the lighthouse. And we walked up these small, circular stairs. And at one point, we had to stop because the energy got so strong, and it almost is as if I was losing my balance. Like I couldn't stay standing straight up. Like I thought I was going to fall down the stairs. I thought I was going to fall out of something. And Ron was getting a little nervous because it had like a little opening, like a hatch, little hatch door.
Right.
And so, Jimmy's looking at me, he was with us. Ron was getting extremely nervous, and I was getting very uncomfortable because I'm thinking, dear God, it's the beginning of the night. We hadn't even gotten into doing the Ouija board. We haven't even gotten into doing any heavy communication. In fact, the lights were still, it was still light out. It was still, the sun was just setting. And I thought, oh my God, I'm in for a long night. And so that to me is where it really, escalated that night when we got into that room and Ron pulled out the Ouija board.
Okay, there's got to be a crazy Ouija board situation. What happened there?
Well, he sets the Ouija board up, and, we're just asking. And that was, I actually saw it today kind of for the first time, watching the little snippet of the video. As we were communicating with this spirit, I'm over there saying, he's telling us to go. He's telling us to go. He wants us out of here. He wants us to leave. And at the same time, later when they dubbed it, they said you could see that the electronics were going fuzzy on the cameras. And it actually says, unbeknownst to the investigators, the words that she was saying are repeated in the EVP. So you could hear in the background, it was like, go, go. And, that was really the beginning of communicating with that spirit. What happened is I was holding Jimmy's hand and Ron's hand, and I didn't even know how hard I was holding their hands. As, first we did the Ouija board, then we decided to stop with the Ouija board because we already had communication. So I had their hands held. And I don't remember a lot after that, what went down, but I looked at the video today, and it was terrifying because, Jimmy's fingers were purple. His hands were purple. He said, he says, my hands were tingling, that it was crazy. And someone's like, your hands are blue. And Ron was saying the same thing, that, he couldn't believe that how strong the energy was at that time, and how all of us, just like I started pushing back and trying to get away. I ended up in the recess of the attic almost. It's kind of like an attic room, and I was in the back of it. Like I was just trying to get away from everybody. So it was, I don't know. It just was one of the harder investigations that we had done.
Does anybody live there now?
I don't believe anybody. In fact, I don't think many lighthouses are manned at this time.
Right. Is there furniture or anything like that?
There's empty rooms. There's no really furniture, but down on the first floor, there were like almost pews that you would find, benches that were these big. In fact, I remember those because during the night when we're trying to get, just close our eyes for 5 minutes, I'd go down in that room, and that seemed to be the one room that was not as heavy. The energy wasn't as, like reaching out, trying to grab you. It was a little bit less intense. So it was one of the places I could go to get some rest.
Whoever lived there, you're bound to go crazy.
I couldn't be that. Yeah.
No.
I mean, who would want to be out there by themselves? And,
it's just a bad idea. Yeah.
It's a real bad idea.
It's just a bad idea. Have you ever seen a ghost?
Have I ever seen a ghost? When I was young, I saw them all the time. And now when I see them more as it's almost like I glimpse them. I get a quick snapshot of what I see, or it seems like they almost shimmer. But when I was younger, I could see them as if I was looking at someone else, that was physical standing in front of me.
What about Ron? And when you guys are out doing, because he's the skeptic, has he ever seen anything?
He has, actually. And, he started off a real skeptic, and even though he tries to keep, he is skeptic, but not as skeptic as he was when he first started, if that makes sense. Because over the years, all the information is gathered, and it gives you those aha moments, and he'll still try to remain scientific, but yet, in fact, I think he even said today that the time he's seen a spirit. He actually saw it when we weren't investigating. He saw it at a different time, that he saw a spirit, and he thought that, he was doing at the Portsmouth Lighthouse, he was actually doing a night where he brought people in to do a ghost tour. And while he was standing there, and at that location, they always would see a woman walking on the walls, right, around the lighthouse. In fact, the Coast Guard would always report seeing this woman, and then they'd go see her on the monitors, and then they'd go run out to see who was out on the walls, and nobody would be there. So this one night he was doing this tour, and when he's standing inside and he's talking, he didn't want to repeat himself, so he saw somebody, like they were walking and there was windows, and he's looking, like waiting for the person to come in, the woman that was standing there, and he was waiting for her to come around and go to the door. And so he's waiting and waiting. He's like, what's taking her so long? So he goes, could you just go ask that woman woman right there to come in. And they went out and said, there's nobody there. So, he actually was a little dumbfounded because he thought, wow, like he saw her, and so much so that he was going to wait to start because he didn't want to speak twice for nothing. But it turned out there was no one.
The other thing that freaks me out, and it's not way before Annabelle or anything like that. But
yeah.
It's dolls and things that get attached to these.
Yeah.
What's going on there? And have you done a research situation with a spirit that is attached to a doll?
We went to this Sprague Mansion to do a 3-part series, like an investigation and a radio show, and it was us, Australia, and England were all doing this live broadcast, right, for Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't necessarily, it was just creepy for this, that there was one room, and as you say, dolls, right? The room was filled with these old creepy dolls that were just sitting in the room. And one of the investigators thought that they saw the doll move. But again, he's terrified of dolls, right? So we were trying to see if we can gather any information if it actually did move, but we can't validate whether it did or didn't. But again, I haven't had it just with the doll. I will say, though, that we did have a situation that, have you ever heard of the Dybbuk box?
Yes, and I was just going to bring that up. That's, things getting attached, and you remove these objects like the Dybbuk box from the house, and things clean up, but whoever's got it now, they have the issues.
Exactly. And, I could get into some of the terrifying details of that, but the Dybbuk box, I actually had seen it originally on, I think it was eBay or something like that, when somebody was talking about it. So being that we have the paranormal investigative team, I sent an email out to the person who had the Dybbuk box, and he was actually had it bound and tied up in this museum place that he worked at, right?
Right.
But the whole history of it was written up on eBay. So I called this man, and he talked to me about it. Now, I didn't know a lot of every part of the history about it and things that had happened until he started talking to me. So I was just really trying to take it to help him, he was at home and he was saying, all these things were happening. So I said, okay, go to your, with your computer, you could try holy water. You could try doing blessings, you can try doing all this stuff. And as I'm talking to him, Jimmy, I actually walked in the other room and I start smelling jasmine flowers, right?
No. Right.
Exactly. And I start going, oh, maybe this isn't such a good idea, right? Because energy's energy, and you don't have to keep it in one room, right? Like it's in one place. It's energy is, I could be doing remote healing, for instance, and so I know the reality that we're not protected, right? So this guy says to me, Maureen, I'm going to call you. Something's going on right now. I will call you. I'll call you tomorrow. I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, don't call me, right? So anyway, he hangs up the phone. He doesn't call me the next day. 2 days later, he calls me and he said, well, I ran into a little bit of a problem. He said, when you were talking to me on the phone and you told me to use the holy water and so forth, he said, my computer started on fire and it literally melted my keyboard. It melted the computer. I had the hard drive. He said, so I couldn't get a hold of you right away because I had to go to work at the museum and get your information again to call you. And so I thought, oh, this isn't good. So anyway, I said, look, would you be interested in talking to Ron and I? We'll talk to each other and maybe do a radio show and try to talk to you about what's going on. And he said, sure. So one night,
let me jump in, and we're going to take a commercial break, and we're going to come back and finish this. I'm already uncomfortable. And I'm already uncomfortable.
Sorry.
This is night 2 of our Halloween night. Maureen Wood is here, and of course, we're talking about her new book, More Ghost Chronicles. It's right there, and you can get it at Amazon, and all of the links for it are over at jimmychurchradio.com. More with Maureen right after this short break. Maureen, are you on Twitter?
I am not.
Okay, that's good enough. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Hey, what up, y'all? Sugar Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Tappy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and my family is safe because of Numana Emergency Food Storage. Just go to the Numana banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Promo code Jimmy10.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, doing a little overtime with our guest tonight, Maureen Wood. Couldn't let Maureen go. I'm getting a little freaked out. It's night 2 of our Halloween week here on Fade to Black and got into the story of the Dybbuk box. Now, first off, Maureen, this got to be a really, really big deal. And I remember when the story broke, I didn't know that you got all involved in this eBay situation with him. Kevin, so you were talking directly with Kevin Manis?
I'm awful with my memory on names sometimes, and I think it was, or I don't know if it was a gentleman who got it from him. I know that the person who had it actually had was working for a museum at the time, so he bound the Dybbuk box and put it in the basement.
What year
to try
was
to
it?
Protect.
Yeah, what year was this?
That has to be, oh my goodness, over 10 years ago.
Okay. Let's continue. This is nuts. It's
so nuts. Ugh.
I just posted pictures of it, and I remember, and I've talked about this a few times on the show over the years. But you just look at it, and it's like a wine cabinet or something. But
right.
You look at it, and you know it's wrong. And it's
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there was broken tombstones that were in there for, I guess it was, part of bringing them into the Jewish people into the concentration camps. They would have them walk on as an insult, walking on the stones, right, of their loved ones, the tombstones. So there had been, I believe, broken tombstone pieces, or also coins, hair. There was hair that was inside. It was at a very, you wouldn't think that this would cause any kind of paranormal event, if you didn't know about it. But the stories that went along with this Dybbuk box were frightening. And, you sit there and we were interviewing this person at the time. And when we talked to him, one of the stories that really jumps out at me was he said, when he originally got the Dybbuk box, he didn't really put too much stock, proof on what was going on with it. So before he bound it, he was going to go off on this business trip, I guess. So the box had been at his house. So before he had taken care of, the steps to protect themselves, he said that outside of his house was this tree that would take literally maybe 10 to 15 people would have to stand circular around it and hold their hands. That's how big this base of this big old oak tree was outside of his house.
Right.
And he said what happened was, he was going on a trip. So he went to leave, and I don't know if he was at the airport or he was going on the trip. And he had made some comment about the box and about it not being, what it thought it was, or he was talking to someone. And at the same time that he was relaying that information, the tree uprooted itself out of the ground. There wasn't any wind going on. There wasn't any sort of anything happening. Well, the tree uprooted itself and crashed through the roof of his house. Yeah. So, and that's only the small stories that you hear that was taking place. So, imagine this. So we were already saying how I was smelling, the jasmine flowers, right?
Right.
And I'm feeling all of this, I start feeling all this energy, and I was not comfortable at all with this whole thing. And I kept saying to Ron, maybe we should cancel the radio show, because I don't want to really antagonize this energy or this entity and get into a bad place. And Ron, being Ron, was like, oh, come on, what's going to happen? Let's just do the show. I said, okay. So we interviewed this man. We're on WCCM in Lawrence, right? Live FM radio. And we're sitting there talking to this man. Well, all of a sudden, as we're talking to him, the atmosphere in the studio changed, right? It wasn't just like, before it was warm, right? I think we were talking in the winter. Or the summer. Can't recall, but the room changed. Like, how you can feel the change, where you can feel this cold breeze just coming up from the ground.
Yeah, I'm feeling it now. So continue.
Yeah.
Right.
So just feeling this cold breeze surround you, and I could feel that energy. And as this man's talking, I'm thinking, oh my God, we just have to get him off the phone. And Ron is now getting agitated. I could see it. So I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, holy crap, we're we're supposed to meet the whole team at the Wyndham Restaurant in New Hampshire after we're done this interview, but now we're literally at each other's throats. So we get off this radio station and we're like angry with each other, and we're bickering like we never did before. And I kept saying to him, I told you that we shouldn't have done this show and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, stop worrying about it. This is fine. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay. Well, we go out to the Wyndham Restaurant. We're sitting there. And Ron is talking about the show. And as he's talking about the show, I'm looking at him like, please don't bring it up, right? Don't start getting into that, conversation. I don't even want to deal with it. Well, he goes, oh, come on, I'm bulletproof. Well, I'm not even kidding you. It was like somebody kicked the chair out from under him and he went right back on the ground. So we're in the restaurant and now he's on the floor. His chair had tipped over. So he's like, oh, now he's a little shaken, right? Like, no, he gets up, sits, oh, that was a fluke. Okay, Ron. Well, maybe within 20 minutes later, he's like, oh, we're all leaving. We're dispersing from the restaurant. And, him and his wife leave and they're in this small little Taurus or something, a white car. And it's nighttime, but it's a white car, right? And he goes to this intersection and he goes to take a turn on this road and he had the right of way and this car plowed right into the side of him. And, he got out and he's like, what's going on? And the guy looked, he said, I swear there was no car. I didn't see you at all.
Wow.
And so Ron will always say, remember what happened the night I said I was bulletproof? I'm like,
right.
I do.
Now, and you're saying that this was 10 years ago.
Well, it must have been more than that, actually.
And what's interesting here, Maureen, is that the box, when it was opened in 2012, okay, so...
it had to be longer than that.
No, hold on, check this out. When it was auctioned and stuff in 2012 on eBay... This was years after you had your experience, but when it was opened inside in 2012, they found 1920s pennies, a lock of blonde hair bound with a cord, a lock of black-brown hair bound with a cord, a small statue engraved with the Hebrew word shalom, a small golden wine goblet, a dried rosebud, and a single candle holder with 4 octopus-shaped legs.
Okay.
There you go. And it's that was in 2012. And so
this was before that.
You're verifying what was in the box, and so this was going back years before it was opened in 2012. And the original owners of the box, that Jewish family, they had said then that the box was possessed by a Dybbuk, which is a Jewish demon or devil or entity that lives inside the box, and you don't open it, right?
You don't open it, right? It's supposed to be, I thought, buried with the person.
That's right. And the original owner said that. She said that the box had been kept in her grandmother's sewing room. And was never opened because a Dybbuk was said to live inside of it. And so it went from there to the guy that you interviewed so many years ago. And then it went through numerous owners.
Oh, it went through numerous owners. And I have to say, if you read the history of it, it's horrifying. There, I think one of the first owners was someone that had it like a antique store or like a pawn shop almost, right? And they had the box inside that location, and they started having issues in the basement, like of jasmine, the smell of urine, and the smell of jasmine flowers. And then the person who had been in that shop got very ill. So that was one of the signs that every time someone owned it, they'd see this loping creature that would be pretty much haunting them, going down their hallways, and then they would be losing their hair. They would get very ill and sick, and there was like no treatment. As long as they had that box, they remained ill. And as it passed hands with different people, I mean, one person, it ended up back on, someone bought it from that shop. And then the next thing they know, they returned it back in front of the shop because they didn't want it, because they realized they connected the pieces.
Do you know who's got it now?
You know, I I lost track of it because I decided at that time, and I'm surprised I even brought it up tonight, but
you know who's got it? I'll tell you.
Who?
Zach Bagans.
No way, really?
Yep. We should call. God. You want to? We should call him right now.
Okay, call him. No.
Should call him. Got his number right here. And now there's before I can't not let you go without talking about Robert the Doll. Have you checked out Robert the Doll?
I have heard about Robert the Doll, and I have a good friend who is a writer, and also, her husband has been very big, Patrick Burns, into the paranormal for years. So he does ghost tours out in Savannah, and they lived down there at Key West. And they, really were talking a lot about Robert the Doll. So personally, myself, no, but I've heard different stories.
Yeah, you just look at the picture and there's something incorrect. I mean, it's just way wrong.
Absolutely. I mean, John Zaffis, right? I mean, my goodness. I mean, you're familiar with John Zaffis, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've seen talks with him many times. We've gone to conferences and so forth together, and he's a great guy, but I could not keep all of those, make a museum and keep all of these cursed objects. And, I heard stories from him about, having them in his house at one point, where he got so many of them, and he would have friends that were priests that would come and bind them. And do prayers to bind them so that they wouldn't have problems. Well, when he was going to, his wife finally said, you need to get these things out of here. I want to get rid of them. And so that's why he went to look to have a museum set up. Well, when he went to have the priests, from what I hear, he went to have the priests, to move them. He said it was like, when you have a windy day with leaves everywhere, he said everything was like in the room was just whipping around. And turbulent. So, to me, that's very creepy. I would, I'm good about not having any cursed objects around me. Thank you.
Let's finish the evening with the attack of the Pukwudgie.
Oh, you would ask about that.
I have to know, right? I have to know.
Yeah, you know what? That was. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but yeah, that was a crazy night. We were supposed to go.
They're all crazy, right?
They're all crazy, but Ron said, let's go. We're going to go. We're just going to go out in the woods for, walk and hike, dress warm, wear hiking boots and whatever. We'll be fine. And so, bring your pendulum. I'm thinking I should have known. But we get there, and when we get there, he goes, yeah, he says, we're going to investigate with Chris Belzano, the Pukwudgie. And I'm like, really? He goes, an elemental. Now, not trying to be a snob or anything, but I'm not, I never really bought into some things. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm just thinking it's pretty much a walk in the woods.
Did you know what a Pukwudgie was at that point?
No.
Okay. Okay. Well, you know what? Briefly, for the audience, what is a Pukwudgie? Yes.
A gnome-like creature, right? That if I had to describe it, it's about 2 foot tall. It started off as like a prankster, right? And it looks like this little ape creature almost. And it supposedly was like a trickster for the Native Americans. So in the Bridgewater Triangle area where this Pukwudgie has been known to inhabit, it's supposed to lead people in and lure them in with these lights. And when the people get lost in the forest, others have been attacked, or, the people have jumped off cliffs and committed suicide. So they're attributing this a lot to the Pukwudgie, right? This little elemental creature that supposedly started off as a trickster, but then went bad.
And so Ron talks you into this.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and again, gullible me. I go and think, yeah, no big deal. We're going for a walk, but again, you don't know till you know, I guess. So we get out there and we're walking around, and now it's getting dark, and honestly, it felt like somebody was following us the whole time, and I was getting very creeped out, and I thought, yeah, maybe it's a little more going on than meets the eye. So we had Thermal Dan, we called him, in our team at the time, and he had a thermal imaging camera. And he was walking with me with another individual, Clay. And, I'm saying, wow, there's someone following us. I can feel it. They're like waiting to pounce. And, they're like, oh, so he puts the thermal imaging camera up to the woods. And it was as if they said it was like the face of Scream. When you see it started morphing into this face with these eyes and the mouth wide open, and it started coming closer. But as it was coming closer, I'm feeling the energy. It literally jumped right in me. So, unfortunately, there are videos with me cursing, hissing, spitting. Ron came back to try to help, and we were wrestling on the ground. And it wasn't just one event during the night, Jimmy. It was two. The second time it happened, we were near the ledge where people were committing suicide. Mm-hmm. And we were near the water. And as I'm standing there, everybody's looking out at the water, and I start feeling this thing again. And it was so bizarre because, how I said I feel what they feel, right? So I'm over there feeling like I want to run up a tree. And I thought, okay, I'm really losing my mind right now, because I just felt this urge to just run and just scream and yell. And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? And the next thing I know, I'm being tackled to the ground from Ron and Chris Balzano, like they're football people. But they said, they were afraid that I was going to go into the water because I was backing up and, under, let's say.
I remember Chris Balzano from the Bridgewater Triangle.
Yes.
Years ago, he was on this show. I haven't talked to him in probably 5 years. Chris Balzano. Yeah. Okay. So it's you and Chris. You get tackled. What happens?
So what happens is, they tackle me, and if you see the video, which unfortunately is out on many television cable stations, it was in one of the movies that was out for the Bridgewater Triangle, and so it's out there to be seen. But I'm hissing and growling, and it scares me. So when I look at it, I don't like seeing it because it's terrifying, to see yourself in that state.
Right.
Well, after it's all done and said, when I kind of was myself again, the odd part was I thought, when you taste blood, like you taste pennies, right? Like you get that metal taste in your mouth.
Yes.
So I thought I bit my tongue or I was bleeding. So I'm over there putting my hands in my mouth like, did I cut myself? And I didn't. I had no cut, no bite of my tongue, but yet my mouth tasted like I just swallowed something, was all full of blood. And again, I had that urge to run and scream. And Ron, I think, got a little nervous too. And I think that night was the night I dislocated his finger. He had to get his wedding ring cut off. And he had just had open heart surgery like a few months before that. And I'm over there wrestling, and he's wrestling me to the ground, which probably was not the smartest thing for either one of us to do, but it wasn't planned. It just kind of happened.
What is it about that area? Boston, Salem, the Bridgewater Triangle. This goes back. This goes back centuries. This isn't anything new. This is.
No, I know.
What is it about the area? And what is? I'm trying to remember the name of it. That little hut in the middle of the crazy clown hut in the middle of the Bridgewater Triangle in the woods.
Oh, well, I know that, I know some of the history of it where they think that there's been a lot of satanic rituals that have taken place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are, and they have so many unexplained lights that they see. And again, they can't understand why it's the biggest place where they've found people committing suicide.
It can't be coincidence.
No, it can't. It's got to be, there's some energy. There's, who knows if there's ley lines, if there's like a weird energy source there. But, I don't know. I mean, anywhere that you talk about satanic rituals, I think that you're opening up all these different pockets, let's say, of energy that is not doing anybody any good.
Yeah. And right now, I'm like 4 episodes in to the new, I'm going to say it, the new Sabrina the Teenage Witch, right? I think it's on Netflix or Amazon.
Oh, me too.
And where does it take place? In your neighborhood.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. In fact, it's funny because my husband's laughing at me because I just happened across it a couple days ago, and I'm already at 7 episodes.
It's good.
It is good. I think it's great. And it's funny. My daughter's name is Sabrina.
Oh, really? Okay. This isn't the Sabrina the Teenage Witch from the Disney Channel. This is a whole nother Sabrina.
Yes.
In the first episode, first or second, I don't know which one it is, but when the teacher gets stabbed in the neck with the scissors, right? Okay, and the blood and it's going ever. I turn to Rita and I go, "This ain't that Sabrina."
No. And she's what, half human and half witch.
Yes.
Right. And if you notice, a lot of the characters or a lot of the ones they talk about are almost characters in different stories, right? Have you noticed that?
Yes,
some of their
Faustus. You got Faustus.
Yes, Faustus, and but man, I'll tell you, it's very addictive.
I'm so into it, and I don't see. This is the thing. I don't care what people think about me. That's the first thing. But if I'm gonna say, as a 55-year-old grown man, that I'm watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch and people want to pass judgment, well, you know what? You haven't seen it. You need to go and check it out. It is really, really cool and really well written. Well, and so is the book. Maureen, thank you for everything tonight.
Thank you.
I look forward to actually having you back on when we're not telling stories. Let's just talk about investigations and your techniques, and I would like to have Ron on the show. Where can everybody go and get the book?
It's available at Barnes & Noble. You can actually go on Amazon.com as well, and you can order it from there. And a lot of different booksellers are carrying it.
Are you and Ron out? I know that you mentioned that you were speaking today. What are you guys doing out there publicly where people can go and listen to you guys?
Well, we have been doing, for the last month and a half, we've been doing a lot of, talking to colleges and libraries locally in the area. Last night we're at Tewksbury Library in Massachusetts. We're doing, again, like a lot of radio interviews, radio shows. But in fact, Friday night we have a little mini investigation, I guess, that we're doing. But unfortunately, that one's private. So it's, if you just go on anyghostproject.com to Ron's website, and you can find all the different happenings that have taken place.
Thank you so much, Maureen. What a great conversation. I had so much fun, and I can only imagine what your Halloween is going to be like tomorrow night. Go and do it correctly and be safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you, Maureen. A great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
The book is More Ghost Chronicles. And again, the links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. And what a great conversation tonight. And I turned down the lights here in the studio. I usually keep it pretty dark in here, but tonight I went extra dark. And I was looking at some of the comments in Twitter. Is there any way to get the fuzziness out? I'm letting you guys know, in the bunker cam, I turned the lights down. I turned the lights down tonight, and I got it nice and dark. So there you go. That's what's going on. I'm looking at myself over here in the monitors. It's dark in here. Yeah, and I really enjoyed it. So I hope everybody has some great dreams tonight. The book is More Ghost Chronicles. Now, tomorrow night, again, I've got to give everybody the heads up. We have Shah the Loon Witch, also from Massachusetts, on with us tomorrow night for our 5th annual Shah the Loon Witch Halloween special event. And we are going to go through about 100 readings and phone calls tomorrow night. And with everybody, you know what it's like. It's going to be very, very busy on the phones. Just all we need is your name and a question, and we'll get you in and out. And also, tomorrow night, if you happen to get through on the phones tomorrow night and you were with Shah in any of the past years, briefly, I want to hear from you briefly. what happened with the predictions from the years gone past. And we've had many, many calls like that over the years. So I do want to hear from you tomorrow night. So with that, that concludes another Fade to Black. And I want to thank Maureen Wood for coming in. Great stories. The book is fantastic. And how about that new London Ledge lighthouse? Huh? Is that crazy? I'm watching everybody's comments. Totally cool. I'll see everybody here tomorrow night on Fade to Black. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Show's produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA The Planet. It's broadcast owned and copyrighted 2018 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm out of here. Rita and I are going to go find a taco truck because it's Taco Tuesday. Until tomorrow night, I am your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Everybody be safe. Go back, Lee Tappy.